Hello, welcome to our lesson 2 where we are going to look at basically three things in this lesson. We're going to look at factors of a number. What exactly is a factor? Then we're also going to look at highest common factor, and then we'll conclude by looking at the lowest common multiple. So a question is asked, what is a factor? What is a factor? In its simple terms, we'll basically be looking at these three things. So to start with, a factor is a number that divides into another number without leaving any remainder. So for example, if we have a number, for argument's sake, let's just say we have 100. So the numbers that divide or go into 100 without leaving any remainder, those numbers are called factors of 100. So for example, a number that I can think of is 50. We know to say when we divide 100, 100 divided by 50 gives us what? Gives us 2. It doesn't give us any remainder, hence 50 is a factor of 100. And then in our previous lesson, remember we looked at prime factors, right? We looked at prime numbers, and then we said that prime numbers, these are numbers that have no factors other than one and themselves. Other than one and themselves. So when we're looking at factors of a number, what we can then do is we can express numbers that are not prime numbers into prime factors. And how to do that is we simply divide a number until it's no longer divisible. So to find the factors of a number, we need to divide it by the prime numbers in 10 until no division is possible. Not until no division is possible. So for example, a number like 30, what we can then do is we can say 30, when we divide 30 by 2, it gives us 15. So which is the same as 2 times 15. So remember, we're trying to come up with prime factors. So that is 2 by 15. So I know to say that 2 is a prime number, but 15 is not a prime number. So I'm going to look for other numbers that I can divide 15 by. Ultimately, when I multiply all these numbers, they should still give me 30. So meaning that this same 30, I can say 2 times 3 times 5. So 3 times 5. So meaning at this point, these numbers are no longer divisible by any other number. These here are prime numbers. These here are prime numbers. And that's how we find factors of a number. This is how we find the factors of a number when we express them uniquely as a product of prime factors. So we are looking for prime factors. So like we earlier on said, to find the factors of a number, we divide by the prime numbers in 10 until no further division is possible. So regardless of how big a number is, let me give an example of a very big number, and then we see how we can deal with it. So for example, if say we have one sorry, not one, say we have 1540. Yeah, let's use 1540. So if we have a number like this, 1540, in prime factors. So if we are to express this one, so let me just write it here. Say express 1540 in prime factors. Express 1540 in prime factors. So firstly, this 1540 1540. If I divide it by 2, I'm going to get 2 times 770, right? And then if I divide this number by 2, 1540 will be equal to 2 times 385, like that. So if I look at 385, firstly, this number is not divisible by 2, so I'm not going to divide by 2. And then secondly, it's not divisible by 3 because 3 is the next prime number. It's not divisible by 3. So the next available prime number is 5. So it's divisible by 5. So 1540 is equal to 2 times 2 times 5 times 77. And then I'm going to look for the next available number that can divide that, which is 7. So I can say 2 times 2 times 5 times 7 times 11. So at this point, this number cannot be divided any further. It cannot be divided any further by any other number. And as such, we are going to leave it like that. Okay, so then next up now, so these lessons are in a way interconnected. They're very, very, very interconnected. So once we know how to find factors, what then that means is that we are then able to find the highest common factor. So remember, for highest common factor, there are two terms that have been introduced. So firstly, it is a factor. That's one thing. Then apart from it being a factor, it is common, meaning it will be the same factor for two different numbers. And then apart from it being common, it needs to be the highest. So highest common factor, that's where it comes from. So a question may be, say, find the highest common factor, which is abbreviated as HCF. Highest common factor of 60, 165, and 210. So we are going to express these numbers as product of prime factors. So that's 60, 165, and then 210. We have something like that. So firstly, this will be 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. So I'm sure your skill will improve as you keep finding the answers. So this is simply 3 times 5 times 11, and then we have 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. Okay, and then if you want to know exactly how to find these factors, just follow through. You can simply rewind and watch what we did previously. So firstly, remember, it first of all needs to be a factor. So all these here are factors, but that's not the only qualification. It needs to be common, meaning it should be present everywhere. So if I look at 2, 2 is present here, but it is not present here, but it is present there. So meaning it is not common. Common means it should be present in all the three numbers. So I'll go to the next number 3. We have 3 here, we have 3 there, and we have 3 there. And then also we have 5 there, we have 5 there, and we have 5 there. So meaning that our common factors from these, we have 3, 3 and 5. The next question then is which one is the highest, because we're looking for the highest common factor. So that simply means that our HCF is going to be equal to 5, because 5 is the highest, it's common, and it's a factor. So meaning that's going to be our answer. 5 is our highest common factor. Okay, so that's how we find our highest common factor. Then next up, we are now going to look at the lowest common multiple. Lowest common multiple. So now we have moved from factor. We are now looking at multiple. Multiple. I'm sure it rings a bell. Multiple, multiply. So the LCM, or lowest common multiple of two or more numbers, is the smallest number which is exactly divisible by each of the numbers. The LCM is the product of all different factors without repetition, without any repetition. Okay, so what that simply means is, I think I'll give the same example, but this time finding the LCM. If a question says, so we're now looking at this. So if the question says find the LCM, find the LCM of 60, 165, and 210. Okay, so what this simply means is that so the LCM, so that will be the LCM will be equal to, so firstly we are going to get the multiples that we got for 60. Remember the multiples that we got for 60? It was 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. Okay, so these were the multiples that we got from 60. And then remember, we don't have to multiply. We don't have to multiply, or sorry, we don't have to repeat the factors. So when we multiply this times 11, this 11 is coming from 165. It's coming from 165. Then this times 7 from 210. So let me just explain this better. Let me just rewrite the multiples so that we understand 165 and 210 like this. So 60, so this 60, remember it was 2 times 2 times 3 times 5, and then 165 was 3 times 5 times 11, then 210 was 2 times 3 uh, times 5 times 7. So when we're finding the LCM, we don't have to repeat the multiples or the numbers. So an easier way for you, if you want, you can use cancellation. You can cancel out. So meaning this number is what we say it is coming from 60. These numbers here, this. And then since 3 and 5 have already been represented here, meaning from 165, the only number that hasn't been represented is 11. This is why we wrote 11 there. And then also all these numbers here, 2 has been used up, 3 has been used up, 5 has been used up. The only number that hasn't been used up here is 7. So this is why we have 7 there, like that. And then now from here, what we are now going to ask ourselves is, which of these now is the lowest? First of all, it should be lowest, and then also is common and is a multiple of these numbers. So from this, we'll be able to see that our lowest common multiple that is common in all of these numbers is the product of these numbers here. So we multiply 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 times 11 times 7. The answer that we are going to get is so that the LCM is equal to 4,620. This is going to be our LCM, lowest common multiple. So meaning this is the number where 210 can go into without leaving a remainder, 165 can go into without leaving a remainder, 60 can go into without leaving a remainder. So that is going to be our LCM. Thank you very much for watching this lesson. See you in the next lesson where we are going to look at fractions.